Thank you for joining us today. My name is Tracy Anderson. I'm the Communications Director for IMPART Alliance. We are housed in the College of Osteopathic Medicine here at Michigan State University. Today, I'm very excited to have Dorothy Paad, founder and president of the Caregiver Incentive Project up in the UP, Marquette specifically. Eric has been a partner with IMPART Alliance for many, many years, and we're just so happy to have him here today. And we also have his daughter here, Dorothy Paad. Dorothy is an award-winning author. She's a motivational speaker, a mentor, and an advocate. Thank you both for being here with us. We're very excited again to have this conversation with you.
Well, Tracy, thank you for that nice introduction and that nice welcome to here. We're very excited to be here. In this world of Zoom meetings and all that stuff is great, but to be here in person is an extra cherry on top of the sundae.
Yes, absolutely. Prefer in person anytime. Tell us a little bit, Eric, if you would, about Caregiver Incentive Project and a little bit about the history.
Okay. So as a father and a parent of someone that needed care from the time she was born, my daughter Dorothy was premature, 8 weeks in the NICU, come home from that, and then her development was delayed, and then the search for why was that cerebral palsy was the ultimate outcome of that. So we're automatically a caregiver for Dorothy's life. My wife and I are most of her care. And we were caring for her as a family at home. Well, then Dorothy, after high school and that, wanted to go to college. And we wanted her, like any parent, to come out and be independent. So get your own apartment and do that before you're forced to by our death, And so as she started to do that, then we needed help. And we started the journey of looking for caregivers and looking for the system that's there. And I got to tell you, I was heartbroken and sick to my stomach when I began to delve into how it is and how it is so dysfunctional, how it mistreats caregivers, and then we expect them to be able to do a good job caring for people when they're not trained, they're not respected, they're not even recognized that it's a real job. Most people think, well, that's just, that's unskilled labor, just taking care of somebody. We wouldn't do that to teachers, and we wouldn't do that to doctors, and you need a certificate hanging on the wall to cut hair. And yet you don't need training to care for other people. And we're letting down the most vulnerable part of our population, our elderly, our disabled, our medically fragile. And again, as a father and a caregiver, that just sickened me. And when I then began the search looking for agencies to help with the improvement process, because there's got to be a better way, I found too many of them that were stuck in they want to keep it this way because they know how to milk the money out of the system. And that even sickened me more. They weren't in it for the care of our most vulnerable. They were in it for the money, and they don't want it to change. And then going up the ladder of organizations that should be overseeing this, they don't want to join in on the fix. And so my upbringing, I grew up on a farm here in Michigan. My upbringing from my parents were, if you find something broke, you fix it. Don't wait for someone else. Don't say somebody should fix it. You fix it, son. And if it's broke for you, it's broke for everybody, so fix it for as many as you can. Well, that inner thing that I was raised to believe drove me to say, well, if not me, who's going to fix this? And so I'm talking about the beginning of the Caregiver Incentive Project. So, okay, then I'm on my own with my wife's and daughter's support and encouragement. How do you start a nonprofit? Went down that road and did it and funded it. And said, we're going down this road and we're going to make a difference. And, our whole mission in life is to improve the lives of the cared for by supporting the caregiver. Because when the caregiver's trained and supported and properly taken care of and cherished as a frontline caregiver, then they'll do a better job caring for the ones that need that care. And that was how I started out. And then all the trappings of the logos and all that stuff, and then the getting the bank accounts and all that, and then starting into the nonprofit world of looking for who can fund this now, who can help us with the grants, and who writes grants, because I don't do that. I was raised on a farm, and I was an aircraft mechanic for the Air Force, and there's no grant writing in either of them. But that's what drove me, that burn in my stomach that this is broken. All parents are going to leave children behind in the natural order of things. I'm leaving a child behind that has a disability that needs a little more help from society, needs a little more help from others than most children. And I'm having a difficult time finding caregivers. I'm having a difficult time navigating the broken system. How can I then, if you will, rest in peace when I know my daughter's left behind without her best advocate, her father and her mother? And that's what drove me. And then great intervention of people that I then met as I began to talk about this, people that were concerned citizens, and that people that knew how to write grants and wanted to help me succeed in my mission, then said, you bet, we'll help you. And then eventually then I found IMPART Alliance. And we're a long ways apart. But we were in lockstep of what we wanted to accomplish. We wanted to not only fix this system, not just for us internally, but for the whole state of Michigan. And then we want to share it with others, the good news, because it's broken across our nation. This is so broken, every state suffers with it. And if we get it right, we can share it with them. And that's really what drove me then. If we get it right and we get the momentum going, because I'm a firm believer in a lot of good gets done when nobody's concerned about who gets the credit. Just get it fixed. And I'm a firm believer in that, and that helps guide me too. Let's get like-minded partners on board, and let's do it together.
So tell us what year the Caregiver Incentive Project began and sort of the progress you've made thus far.
So really, it would be 2016 was really the beginning of my path in trying to find caregivers and care companies and all that. So that's really, I did a year of research. So when I was in the Air Force, my last job was superintendent of process engineering. So how do you look at a process and make it better? And so I took that training and I took that thinking and I teamed it with the father's eyes, a parent's eyes, a caregiver's eyes, and then I gathered like-minded people. And I'm proud to say on my team, everybody is a caregiver and or a cared for. And so the people that live this are the best ones that are going to know how to fix it. And we need to listen to those people because they're on the receiving end. If you will, I'm in the trenches of this all the time because with Dorothy for her needs, but then the friends of people, it's kind of like the soccer mom theory, you know, they're all friends because their children play soccer. I call us therapy parents because most of us have children that are in physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy as they're growing up. Who else is there at those appointments is other parents that have that same need. And then most of our friends and that are caregivers or cared for. So we see with our own eyes the suffering that they go through and are living with. And so I gathered them together because who's going to know better where it's broke, how they're mistreated, and they'll share that. And then together that voice will come and magnitude and louden, raise up and say, hey, pay attention to us. We're mistreated. And it is mistreatment. You know, caregivers are so mistreated. The statistic is 96% of caregivers that come into people's home are women, are females. And it's just by the very nature, they're mistreated right there. I mean, right at the beginning, you know, of the very people that are expected to go in and care are horribly mistreated.
So how have you worked over the years to change that dynamic?
So there's no standardized training. We developed a class to train caregivers, and then we fielded that class. We began to create caregivers. And the knowledge, if you will, of how broken this system is is not out there. I didn't know about it was broken before I went and started looking. That should not, when you find out because you need a caregiver to help with your mama, because she's aging out, that should not, when you find out there's not enough of them available, and the ones that maybe are available are not worth it.
Right, exactly. There's this incredible shortage here in the state of Michigan and in all states, really. And it's often that time when you're looking for a caregiver that you realize, wow, there is a shortage. This is difficult to find a qualified caregiver to take care of my family member or help care for, provide some daily assistance. And
absolutely, that is not the time that you should find out that you're not going to be able to find one. And if you do, you're not going to want them in mama's house. You just aren't going to want them. This is someone's leaving their family to come help you care for your family. And, you know, some people sign contracts with companies that literally purposely fail. They overbook and underdeliver. They know they don't have enough caregivers, but that don't stop them from telling you you're going to get a caregiver tomorrow morning, and they know they don't have them to send them. And that kind of stuff goes on every day. And that's when your mom is in the most needs because she's become an elderly, or your dad or any loved one, is not the time to find out that there's not a system. There's a system that's going to fail you. And so inform the public of this before they're surprised by it, and build that grassroots effort, because that works still, even in this world of electronic stuff. Word of mouth still works, and people want to know. And I don't want anybody surprised like I was surprised that this system is going to fail you. It just is going to fail you. Now, is there good people out there? Of course there are. Is there good companies with intention? Of course they are. But the bad ones are overwhelming the good ones.
So with the Incentive Caregiver Project, how many direct care workers do you staff, and has that grown over the years?
Well, it has. We don't have... Right now, we have only one paid employee, and she is a caregiver. In the past, when we employed people, one was a father of an adult child that still lived at home, and he had an educational background, so he came with two skills there. He came with what it knew to have an adult child still living at home that had special needs, but then he had all that educational background of being a K through 12, being a superintendent, being a principal, and all that. But anybody that we have employed have been seasoned caregivers or seasoned in the needs that we're talking about. But the whole thing of people that we have volunteers. But on my board of directors, I have a lawyer who's certified in elder law in the state of Michigan. She lives it every day too. And then social workers and caregivers are on the board of directors too. So we're all the like-minded. And we've grown in that pool of volunteers and in that pool of other like-minded organizations that we partner with. I couldn't give you a full count of that, but we got here. We're in the UP, and here we are down in the Lower Peninsula with one of our team members,
Michigan State University.
Michigan State University and IMPART Alliance, and so it's catching fire, if you will. It's catching momentum, and it's catching the ear of the public and everybody else that this system needs to be improved. This system needs to be fixed. And that's what I'm excited to be a part of, that there is going to be standardized training and standardized credentialing, if you will, because right now caregivers are usually hired sight unseen, and they're given an address for the first client they're going to care for. They don't even give them the name usually, and they don't tell you what their needs are. They just say, go to address such and such and such and such and care. And that's setting that person up to fail. And it's setting that person that needs that care, because there's no matching of the caregiver skill with the need of the client. That doesn't even bother me. We don't go to a dentist if we have a sore toe. And yet we send caregivers out without even telling them the name, let alone what the needs are, or matching them to the skills. And so we're working on that, a career path, a path for success. So people that do this for a living should get promoted, should get paid if they get more training, should get paid properly if they have more skills, and and it should be a career path that's recognized, and all the trappings that come with it, that the support and the respect that comes with how much these people put into their job of caring for someone else's loved one.
Absolutely. So, Dorothy, tell us a little bit about how you fit into the Caregiver Incentive Project.
Well, I fit in because I am cared for. I am one that is cared for. I have cerebral palsy, and I require 24-hour care. And caregivers are one, if not the main thing that makes a difference between my living and my merely existing. You can, and this is not to bash anybody out there, because I know there are some good group home type situations, but in a group home setting, I've found I live in my own home by choice, and have a caregiver that comes into the home. But in group home settings, too often the clients are told what to eat, when to eat it. They don't have any choice over their own schedule or activities or life, and there's not enough staffing. These places are understaffed, so the people just merely exist, not live. And because I have a caregiver, I'm able to have a lot of really wonderful experiences that I wouldn't get to have if I didn't have one, which is to say, I attend college, I write books, I volunteer my time in the community at a hospice. I do all these wonderful things that I wouldn't get to do if I didn't have a caregiver. Also, the wonderful thing about having a good caregiver is that my caregiver respects me and respects my dignity and respects my home and respects any choices that I make about what I'm doing that day or what I'm watching on TV. She's there, but she's not there. She's there when I need her, but she knows how to not be there and kind of blend in. Also, when I go to a school type setting, she just lets me be with my friends and makes it as normal as it can possibly be, given that I'm an adult that needs 24-hour care, which is not a usual situation, but she makes it as normal as she can. And then third and most important to me, life with a disability can be very socially isolating. And my caregiver, and I find a lot of people who I speak to about caregiving don't understand this, that if you get the right caregiver, my caregiver is not just staff to me. My caregiver is family. And she's family, and she's a cheerful companion. She's one of my reasons. I have many, but she's one of my reasons that I can get up in the morning and do what I need to do and live a full life. But she's family, and a lot of people don't understand that.
That's wonderful, and thank you for sharing that. That helps us understand that connection and how important that is for daily life and accomplishing your goals. You are the author of several books. Tell us a little bit about how you got into writing children's books and what inspired that.
So, all right. I struggle. I have multiple. I don't know if it would be called disabilities, but I have several issues, most of which you can see. My cerebral palsy is quite visible. I'm in a wheelchair, but I also have several invisible disabilities. I struggle with mental illness. So when COVID hit, and we were forced into lockdown, and I could no longer attend college because of the unsafetyness of it, I fell into a depression. And fortunately, I had a friend, a mentor, who enjoyed writing and suggested that I might enjoy writing, and that if I wrote my stories and shared from my life, that I could inspire others. And I took one look at the state of our nation in a pandemic, and I don't mean to get political, I never mean to, but with the leadership that we had in our country at the time. And I said to myself, people really need to be uplifted. They really need inspiration. And if I can do that for children, I love children. If I can do that for children and their parents, then that's what I want to do. And so I wrote one book, and then one turned into two turned into three, and I've got a fourth one coming out this year.
How exciting. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Tell us about your favorite and sort of the story behind the story.
So, okay, I have three favorites. I love them all. They're all very important to me. But my favorite probably is my first one, called Dance Your Dance, Sing Your Song. And it's, I have a background, I enjoy the performing arts. So I was the first student with a disability to ever take dance at Northern Michigan University. So my first book is about that, and it's called Dance Your Dance, Sing Your Song, because when I was little, and I was in music class one day, and we were dancing, and kids were making fun of me because I was dancing differently. I was doing my dance, and I wasn't doing it right. I cried. And I came home and I cried some more on my dad's lap. I was little at the time. And he says to me, "Hun, why are you crying?" And I told him what had happened that day. And he said, "Hun, you dance your dance and you sing your song. And if they don't like it, they can just look away." So that stuck with me, that phrase, dance your dance, sing your song. So that's that's how I chose that title.
That's very touching. I'm sure very much a proud moment for you as well, Eric.
It is definitely a proud moment because, we don't like to interfere with anybody else. We don't expect the world to revolve around us. We just expect the world to allow space for us and allow space for Dorothy. And the fact that she was being laughed at because she doesn't dance the way they dance. My point is, were you hurting them? Were you running their toes over? Were you interfering with their life? No, they were making fun of her. They were at her expense and, enjoying a laugh. So if you're not harming them by the way you're dancing or you're singing, then for your health and well-being, you dance your dance, you sing your song, be proud of it. And then they need to look away because they're wrong in how they're treating you. And that was words that must have stuck with her because, as she didn't say, though, when she was young, there was no books with children in wheelchairs.
That's another reason I was inspired. Sorry to cut you off.
No, please do. Go ahead.
But that was another reason that inspired me as my mentor and I were talking about. She was like, "I really think your stories could inspire a lot of people." And another thing that inspired me to write the books then was thinking back, and when I was a child, there were no books in school with characters in wheelchairs. And I would ask the teachers about it, and I can't remember their exact words. And they, in elementary school, they were nice, good people. I could tell you some stories about high school, but that's a whole different...
It's a different story.
That's a whole different story. But there were good people with good intentions in elementary school. But when I would ask, why don't you have books with people in wheelchairs in them, the attitude I would get, and like I said, I can't remember the exact words, but the attitude I would get is, who cares? And I would be like, I care. Because where am I?
Yeah, and I would say another one is there was no adult mentors in wheelchairs either in the school system, or even basically in public that she could look to and say, well, they're making their life living. And so that I know as she got older, and I would like to add one thing about the first book. This was an adult that was friends of the family that believed in Dorothy and encouraged Dorothy, and that was something outside the family that she didn't get much chance to have, and said, you will do good for others if you share your stories and inspire them. And it doesn't have to be children in wheelchairs that you're inspiring parents and anyone, because we've all been bullied, we've all had naysayers.
Absolutely.
And this is how Dorothy shares this with how she overcame all that and chose to lead a happy life despite what all these other adults had told her that you won't, you can't, you'll never. Well, here's an adult that's not family that's saying, I'll coach you, Dorothy, and I will not write any of the words. They're all your words, but I'll coach you how it goes. And then we made relationships with the people that edit books and the people that that illustrate books. And then we started a company our own to publish those books. But it had to be that there was somebody, an adult, that believed in Dorothy and then inspired her to do it and coached her through it. And I just want to throw that in because that is so important. That started that. And then the rest of the books Dorothy have done on her own.
And also what's important, and Dad's right, it's important to have an adult that believes in you and encourages you. But what's also important, and what I'm trying to share with my stories, is the fact that my disability is not a choice. It's not something I would chose. It's not something I would have chosen had I had the choice. Or maybe I would have. I don't know if I had the choice. But it's not something I chose. But happiness and attitude is a choice. It's a choice. And that's what I'm trying to teach, is good choices.
And I think you naturally exude that, Dorothy. I can feel your joy and your excitement and your passion and the energy behind your accomplishments and the way you choose to live life. And it's very inspiring.
Thank you.
Very inspiring.
Well, she makes her dad proud every day.
I bet. I also hear that you are sort of the official spokesperson for the Caregiver Incentive Project. Could you tell us a little bit about that role?
So I don't do that role now as much as often as my author role.
Okay.
But I do the role when I'm asked to do it, and I speak as an advocate because I am the cared for, and I can speak to what that feels like and speak truth to people that need to hear it. I can be a voice to those that have no voice, and a lot of people in my position that have care staff, that are care staff that is family. The people in authority make threats that if you speak out, and I know this from experience because I have been threatened, that if you speak out to people in authority, people in power, and try to change the system, change how we do it, then you will lose your caregiver. And they say it with such non-feeling. And they say it with such, they don't realize when you try to explain that you're talking about one of my family members, one of the people that gives me reason to get up in the morning. They just don't get it. So that's what I try and do, is because a lot of people are too afraid to speak up to power. I'm not. So
if you could tell, for example, our state's legislators a message, what would that sound like?
Wow. I'm
Sit it out there.
I'm tired of not feeling heard. I'm tired of being scared to speak up when somebody treats me in the wrong way because of the threats that I get.
We need them to be part of the fix.
I need you.
Yeah.
I need you to be part of the fix. And to really use your power for good. Really. Use your power for good. And I'm tired of when I speak to people in authority, and I haven't spoken to anyone in the legislature. I've never spoken to somebody in high authority, I must say. But when I speak to people in authority in the care system, they don't make me feel like a person. Too many of them. They make me feel like I'm a case number. They make me feel like I'm my disability, and I'm not. I'm a person with hopes, dreams, desires, and I want to be treated like a person, and I want to have my voice heard. But we need them to be part of we need them to step up and use their power and be part of the solution.
Thank you for sharing that, and thank you both so much for joining us today. This was just a wonderful conversation. We've enjoyed learning more about the Caregiver Incentive Project. If anybody would like to learn more, you can visit the/cip.com, and we appreciate your time today.
Thank you.